Trinidad's opposition distanced itself from assassination plot allegations and accuses PM of making up stories. Internationally, all 39 dead in the UK lorry were Chinese nationals. And in sports, Major League Baseball umpire probed over impeachment civil war threat. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this short break.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Now for the national news. Reports from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force indicated that a vessel carrying some 35 individuals, 34 Haitians and 1 Dominican national, arrived in the Federation last evening, Wednesday 23rd October. According to Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy, the vessel MV Ocean King was traveling from Dominica to St. Martin when it began to take on water and an SOS was sent out for assistance. The Dutch Coast Guard in St. Martin intercepted the call and responded. They escorted the vessel to the Coast Guard base in Basseterre at about 9 p.m. According to Chief Immigration Officer Mercelyn Hughes, 4 of the immigrants were taken to the Joseph N. France General Hospital for treatment and observation, and the others remain in custody. This recent development follows that of Sunday 20th October, when on that evening, 15 Haitians, 13 men and 2 women were illegally entered the Federation through Bird Rock, St. Kitts, some of whom had documentation. They were taken into custody by police and were handed over to the Immigration Department on Monday, 21st October. According to Police Chief Brandy, the 15 Haitians are still in the Federation. November 8, 2019 is the new date for the completion of the second cruise ship pier in St. Kitts, according to the St. Christopher Air and Seaport Authority, or SCASPA. This new date was triggered by irreplaceable damage to contractor equipment. The construction of the second cruise ship pier at Port Zante, undertaken on a government-to-government arrangement between the Canadian government, acting through the Canadian Commercial Corporation, the contractor, and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, acting through SCASPA, the employer, began in March 2018 and was embarked for completion by September 23, 2019. However, SCASPA says this plan was scuttled in September when the passage of Hurricane Dorian impacted the ocean currents in and around St. Kitts and Nevis and further south of the Federation, resulting in significant damage to 3 on-site operating barges. As a consequence, the damage to these barges consequently delayed the completion time for the second cruise ship pier. Measures were taken by the contractor to secure a replacement barge to complete the work. A barge was secured and is en route to St. Kitts from the USA. 1 month after the earmarked date of September 23, 2019, SCASPA says the new facility is already 98% complete and will be completed in time to accommodate the 2019-2020 cruise season. What does the early announcement of a 4th consecutive double salary here in St. Kitts and Nevis mean? At a national consultation on the Federation's economy on Tuesday, October 8th, at the St. Kitts Marriott's Resort, Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris stated that for the 5th year in a row, we are having economic growth. In addition, he noted that because of how the government has been managing the country's finance, a double salary will be paid to all government employees. Despite the announcement of a 4th double salary, the opposition St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party, SKNLP, has questioned this. Leader of the SKNLP is Dr. The Honorable Denzel Douglas.
Now that they have spent 4 years and a half enriching themselves and their families, they are scrambling to give the appearance of doing something for the people. But the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are saying too little, too late. For example, the announcement in Miami of a double salary. What is that really? What does this mean really? September it was announced here. December is double salary. What's really going on? The people need to know that if the elections are called before December, you will not get a double from Harris. You will get a triple from Douglas. Double is out of style.
At the party's press conference earlier this month, Dr. Douglas also made this comment.
Dr. Harris is scrambling because the clock has run out on him. He had pinned all his hopes for winning the next election on getting rid of Douglas again and destabilizing the Labour Party so that they could run unopposed and not have any work to do.
Leader of SKNLP, Dr. the Honorable Denzil Douglas. In 2015 general elections, the Labour Party won 3 seats, Nevis Reformation Party 1, People's Action Movement 4, Concerned Citizens Movement 2, and People's Labour Party 1. Elections are constitutionally due, by 2020. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, there are a number of agencies that respond to emergency calls. One such body is the Fire and Rescue Services. The department, which falls under the Ministry of National Security, has its mission statement to protect and safeguard the lives and property of citizens and the general economy by preventing or reducing the dangers and effects of fires and explosions. Thursday, 24th October's edition of Policing with You featured 2 fire substation officers, FSSO, Timothy Martin and Rommel Williams, who sought to update and remind the general public of the role they play in the security and safety of citizens and residents. According to Martin, one such area they provide assistance is in disasters.
If it's a hurricane, we basically form part of the initial clearance team where we would have to go out and clear the roadways, make sure they are accessible and passable, check homes and make sure persons are safe. If there are homes where trees and so might have fallen on, we would go and aid these persons because we would have specialized tools for that type of work. So hurricane, we do that. If it's a mass casualty situation where it involves a school bus, then we would go into rescue still, but this would involve more vehicular extrication where we have to use a different set of tools to actually cut persons from the vehicle.
One of the areas the officers alluded that persons pay attention to was that of hiking.
One of the most important things I would like to stress is that persons who intend to take a hike, that they would inform someone that they are going on this hike so that somebody else could be accountable for where you are. There are too many times where persons go on hikes and they just did not tell anyone that they were going. So their families or whoever, the concerned person, they would call us and say, well, this is the last time I saw this person, so I don't really know where they went. So it makes our efforts even more difficult because we don't even know where to start. So it is very important that you tell somebody else where you are going.
FFSO Rommel Williams. St. Kitts and Nevis joined other United Nations or UN member states to celebrate UN Day today, Thursday, October 24th. UN Day marks the anniversary of entry into force in the 1945 of the UN Charter. With the ratification of this founding document by the majority of its signatories, including 5 permanent members of the Security Council, the United Nations officially came into being. October 24th has been celebrated as United Nations Day since 1948. According to UN.org, United Nations Day highlights the enduring ideals of Charter, which entered into force on this date 74 years ago. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis joined the United Nations on September 23, 1983, as its 158th member. The theme for this year's United Nations Day was Our Planet, or Future. Since part of the United Nations Security Council, small islands can receive necessary developmental assistance from larger countries. That is according to Mr. Samuel Barrage, Senior Foreign Services Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. On this week's edition of Working for You, hosted by Mr. Kiloni Johnson, Mr. Barrage spoke about in detail some of the advantages small island states would get from being a part of the United Nations Security Council. For example, the recent addition of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Of course, they have significant leverage. Being on the Security Council is a big issue. St. Vincent will now have exposure in ways it never had in its 50 years of independence. You'll find that a lot of agencies will approach them seeking support, seeking for them to vote a certain way. They can use that access to leverage development for their country. That is something which we should all aim for, having a level of access that can further our development. They might be exposed to industries. The defense industry is a major industry. They might be exposed to a lot of training for their diplomats and their people. Just the access, just the exposure from being on the Security Council is tremendous. And you find that countries really try hard to get on the Security Council.
When asked if St. Kitts and Nevis would be preparing for a place on the UN Security Council in the future, this was Mr. Barrage's response.
Now, timing is important because in Latin America and the Caribbean, there are 33 countries. So if St. Vincent and the Grenadines is there now, next time we can reasonably get a chance to be in there because we just had a small country. You have to wait your turn. So you have to be strategic and say, okay, 5 years down the road, I'm going to put forward my candidacy. And you start to whisper certain things in person's ear, let them know St. Kitts and Nevis is interested, and then at the right time, you put out your announcement.
Senior Foreign Affairs Services Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Samuel Burridge. Elections for a position on the UN Security Council occur every 2 years. However, there is no public nomination for countries to the Council. Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, will host his monthly press conference on Thursday, October 31st. The event will commence at 10 a.m. at the Cabinet Room on the second floor of the Social Security Building at Pinney's Estate, Nevis. At the press conference, Premier Brantley will provide an update on matters of national interest. All media houses and members of the press corps are invited to the conference and will have the opportunity to ask questions for the listening and viewing public. The forum will be carried live here on Vaughan Radio 860 AM. That's our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vaughanradio.com or our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio or our Vaughan Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
Life can be more fulfilling when we take the time out to smell the roses. And that's why your friends and family at the Bank of Nevis are experts at picking the flowers that best describe you. Whether you're planning to treat yourself after a long work week or finally getting around to that closet update, you deserve all the special things that life has to offer. And the Bond Visa card is here to help you achieve it. With just a swipe, you can turn a last-minute lunch date with friends and family into something worth remembering with memories that will last a lifetime. Pampering yourself just got a whole lot easier. And after all, you deserve every refreshing moment of it. The ability to make your travel arrangements at your own convenience, whether by sea or by air, now rests within the palm of your hand. With a single swipe, the Bond Visa card can put a world of difference between life and truly living. Whereas the only limit you may have is your own imagination. Apply today. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Welcome back, and now for the regional news. The main opposition United National Congress, UNC, out of Trinidad and Tobago has denied any involvement in any alleged plots to kill the country's Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi. In fact, it's charged that the claims made by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley were part of a desperate attempt to revive his dying political career and get political mileage ahead of next year's elections. It was last Friday night at a meeting of the ruling People's National Movement, or PNM, that Rawi linked opposition operatives to a plot to assassinate Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi. He also said that on 2 occasions, ahead of the 2015 general elections, they hired a killer to kill me, offering US $2 million for the job. Revealing what he said was a recent plot to murder Al-Rawi, Rowley said that one of the first meetings he held when he moved back into the Prime Minister's office in Whitehall last month was to determine how to protect the Attorney General because persons are paid money to kill him. But in a statement on Monday, distancing the UNC from any assassination plots, opposition leader Kamla Persad Bissessar said she had no intention of falling for the distractions and distortions. Out of Dominica, an independent group of Dominicans has launched a petition calling on the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Gerard Burton, to take the necessary action by November 1st, 2019 to implement electoral reform for the next general election or resign. The document, dated October 25th, is demanding that Burton vacate office within the next 7 days from the original date of the letter unless he immediately begins implementation of the voter verification process and the issuance of voter identification cards. The petition charges that the Electoral Commission, under Burton's chairmanship, has failed to execute its responsibilities in the interest of the Dominican people and is endangering the possibility of going into the next general election under conditions that will encourage most fraudulent elections in the history of encourage the most fraudulent election in the history of Dominica since universal adult suffrage. According to the petition document, Burton's conduct during the recent visit of the joint mission from the OAS, CARICOM, and the Commonwealth Secretariat has raised serious concern that he ignored the report and the recommendations submitted by the joint mission that would help make it possible for the people of Dominica to pursue free and fair elections. And finally, out of Antigua, a 12-man jury returned a guilty verdict in the case of Gray Farm resident Prince Charming Graham, who was on trial for murder of Jalan Shantytown Thompson. The incident resulted in Thompson being killed at the Jamdung nightclub on Lower Nevis Street in July 2017. That was when the girlfriend of the deceased got into an altercation with the defendant, who was a DJ at the club. In an attempt to defend his girlfriend, 26-year-old Thompson is said to have gotten into a brawl with Graham, who was 28-year-old at the time, that resulted in Florida resident being stabbed in his chest. Testimony revealed that the budding soca artiste obtained a 8 to 10 centimeter laceration from a sharp object which penetrated his heart. He was pronounced dead at the Mount St. John's Medical Center shortly thereafter. That's it for the regional news segment. International news is up next. Welcome back, and now into international news. The 39 people found dead in a refrigerated trailer in Essex were Chinese nationals. Police have been granted an extra 24 hours to question lorry driver Mo Robinson, 25, on suspicion of murdering the 8 women and 31 men. 3 properties in Northern Ireland have been raided, and the National Crime Agency is working to establish if organized crime groups were involved. The BBC's Simon Jones reports.
The police are warning this isn't going to be a quick investigation because first the coroner has to determine a cause of death for each of the 39 people, and it's only once that has happened that the police can try to start identifying the people involved, and that's likely to be an international operation involving the police here in Essex and also the Chinese authorities, plus the authorities too in Belgium, where this container was loaded onto a ship in the first place.
A Bangladesh court has sentenced 16 people to death for the murder of a student set on fire after accusing her teacher of sexual harassment. Nusrat Johan Rafi, 19, died in April in Feni, a small town some 160 kilometers outside of the capital of Dhaka. The head teacher, Nusrat, accused of harassment, and 2 female classmates were among those convicted. Her murder shocked the country and led to a series of protests demanding justice for Nusrat. The trial has been one of the quickest in a country where such cases usually take years to conclude. Prosecutor Hafez Hamed told reporters that it proved that nobody will get away with murder in Bangladesh. The remains of a Spanish dictator, Francisco Franco, have been moved from a vast mausoleum to a low-key grave 44 years after his elaborate funeral. Thursday's long-awaited relocation fulfills a key pledge of the socialist government, which said Spain should not continue to glorify a fascist who ruled the country for nearly 4 decades. His family unsuccessfully challenged the reburial in the courts. The Franco era continues to haunt Spain, now a vibrant democracy.
22 members of Franco's family attended the private exhumation and brought his remains to a waiting helicopter. They were not allowed to drape the coffin in the Spanish flag, for modern Spain is very publicly disowning Franco's legacy. Franco's remains have lain at the Valley of the Fallen outside Madrid since he died in 1975. Last year, the country's socialist government ordered that he be removed from public veneration. Franco loyalists, who believe he rescued Spain from communism, accuse the government of rewriting history for political gain.
EU leaders are set to decide on Friday whether to grant the UK a 3-month Brexit extension, the BBC's Europe editor, Katja Alder, says. Most EU nations back it, but France is digging its heels in, she adds. So there could be an emergency summit in Brussels on Monday to allow leaders to reach an agreement face-to-face. Boris Johnson insists the UK will leave the EU next week, with or without a deal, and he will seek a snap election if the EU grants an extension to January. The Prime Minister was forced to send a letter to the EU requesting an extension under the legislation passed by the MPs last month. But he said he had told EU leaders his policy was still to leave on October 31st. That's it for the international news. Sports is up next.
Just VAT. TDC Automotive is giving you more. Pay no VAT on the first $50,000 on any vehicle. No deposit, no interest for the first 3 months. That's no VAT. No deposit, no interest. We give you more, so you save more. Receive up to $3,000 in cashback credit. Save up to 60% off your insurance premium. Get your personalized TDC token for 2 years of instant savings. Plus, save thousands in free extras. Get more than just VAT from TDC Automotive. We're number 1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, and now into sports. The head of the Major League Baseball has said the organization is investigating a tweet from an umpire that threatened civil war if U.S. President Donald Trump was impeached. Rob Drake's now-deleted tweet said he planned to buy an AR-15 rifle. It comes amid an impeachment inquiry in the U.S. House of Representatives. Mr. Drake, 50, has not commented and has deactivated his Twitter account. He has been a full-time Major League umpire since 2010. In the tweet, Mr. Drake said he planned to buy an assault rifle because, quote, if you impeach my president this way, you will have another civil sick war, hashtag MAGA 2020, according to a copy seen by ESPN. It reportedly followed another tweet that read, you can't do an impeachment inquiry from the basement of Capitol Sick Hill without even a vote. What is going on in this country, end quote. Major League Baseball MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred told reporters before a World Series game on Wednesday that the tweet would be looked into. In basketball, Kyrie Irving scored 50 points on his Brooklyn Nets debut, but could not stop his slide slipping to a 127-126 overtime defeat by the Minnesota Timberwolves. The 27-year-old scored most of the points by a player on a franchise debut, but missed a last-second shot to win. Irving, who joined from the Boston Celtics in July, registered the 7th best points in the Nets' history. His previous best tally on a franchise debut was Vicky van der Wages, 47, for the Portland Trail Blazers on October 1984. In football, Lionel Messi became the first player to score in 15 consecutive Champions League seasons in Barcelona, as Barcelona claimed a narrow win at Slavia Prague. Captain Messi gave Barca an early lead, with the first-time finish after an exchange of passes with Arthur. The Czech champions were deservedly level when Jan Borlí poked home Lucas Masopud's pass from 16 yards, but Messi's free kick found Luis Suarez at the back post, and his cross shot went in off Peter Olejanka. Barcelona, who are top of La Liga, now have won 6 consecutive games in all competitions. As a result, the result keeps Ernesto Valverde's side top of Group F on 7 points from the 3 games, 3 points above Inter Milan and Borussia Dortmund. And finally, in sports, in football, United States striker Alex Morgan has announced she's pregnant. Morgan, 30, finished joint top scorer at the 2019 Women's World Cup, and is viewed as one of the world's most influential female players. Her child's first due date in April 2020, 3 months before USA are scheduled to play at the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Morgan tweeted an image of her with her husband, LA Galaxy footballer Servando Carrasco, adding that they are already in love with their baby girl. That's it for sports. The weather is next. The weather today, partly cloudy to cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. The weather tonight, partly cloudy to cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Winds east at 5 to 12 knots or 9 to 22 kilometers per hour. Seas less than 1.2 meters or less than 4 feet. Sunset today 5:44 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow 6:06 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Thursday, 24th October 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, vessel with 35 immigrants escorted to St. Kitts following SOS call. And new completion date for second cruise pier as November 8th, 2019. Regionally, Trinidad's opposition distances itself from assassination plot allegations and accuses PM of making up stories. Internationally, all 39 dead in UK lorry were Chinese nationals. And in sports, Major League Baseball umpire probed over impeachment civil war threat. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Danielle Moore wishing you